There's much worse things to shame him about if we wanted to. The press, books are full of very credible allegations about very, very bad things, things you never hear from the lips of Western politicians. Because if you said these things, you couldn't do business with Putin, and they want to do business with Putin. That's why it won't happen.
But that's where I was going with the questioning. Is it in our interest right now to confront the only other, and they're not the superpower we are, but really it's the other nuclear superpower? Do we confront them, or do we try to cooperate with them? What is in our best interest at this point?
We deter them. We shouldn't say them. We're talking about Putin. We don't really have a Russia problem. We have a Putin problem. He cannot leave power. He's like Mugabe or Mobutu. His crimes are so serious that he must stay in power to protect himself and his cronies. He's not going to leave power, and it's his desperation. It's cornering him that is, the worst possible outcome, I think. We have to hope for some natural course of events, if you know what I mean, to take him out of the picture. In the meantime, we have to deter him from rash miscalculations.
You almost sounded like Trump with the Second Amendment. Maybe the Second Amendment people will take it. I mean, is that what do you?
Well, or the Almighty. He also has a hand in these things.
But how can he possibly be bailed out from improvement in the underlying fortune of his country?
I don't think he can.
He can't.
He cannot afford to have a prosperous, democratic, open, free society anywhere within his sphere of influence, because otherwise the Russian people might say, why don't we have the same? That's why we have this problem with Ukraine. That is the only bone of contention between him and the West, is whether Ukraine is going to be a role model for people in Russia that he doesn't want them to have.
There's one thing that always boosts his national ratings in Russia. It is the kind of international expansion of Russia and nationalistic sentiment across the country. In that sense, do we actually play to his hand by elevating this crisis, because it allows him to bring back that Cold War sentiment, it's Russia against the world type thing, which boosts his rating domestically?
Very much so. We give him easy victories, and he trumpets them at home as a substitute for the prosperity, which is no longer there since the oil price crashed and since corruption has pretty much destroyed entrepreneurship in Russia.
The economic sanctions, when they first came into play after the start of the Ukraine crisis, they did work initially, and also oil prices collapsing clearly put more pressure domestically on Russia than perhaps the sanctions were doing. But either way, there was a sign that they were working. His approval ratings changed a little bit, at least. Could we not reinforce economic sanctions in a much bigger way again?
The most important sanction was the sanctioning of Exxon to stop the development of his Arctic and shale resources, and yet Russia has improved its oil output despite the absence of Western technology. Maybe they're borrowing from the future in that sense, but so far I don't think the sanctions have been terribly effective. Putin has used them to his advantage to, justify privation at home and say this is a patriotic sacrifice we're making.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.